Alright, today I'm going to be doing a Dead by Daylight killer tier list, going from left to right across the killer tier board. Granted, I have not played every single killer in this game, but I have gone up against every single killer in this game as a survivor. Very painful, I know. And I'm not going to include Dracula in this playlist simply because he's really new, and I haven't gone up against him enough. And Vecna's tier is gonna be kind of iffy, so don't take my word for it exactly, it's gonna change. Anyways, I'm just using a random website because, you know, I'm lazy, so. Let's start with Trapper. I'm only gonna give a short explanation for all of these just because there's a lot of killers here, but I feel like I'll be able to piece it together. So starting with Trapper. He's gonna go in D tier, obviously, simply because Trapper has a very low chase capability. He's not all that good. It takes a really long time for him to set up the game and for him to actually win. The only way to play Trapper, really, and succeed is to play Basement Trapper, but honestly, that's really not fun, like, at all. And it's also not very viable if the players you're playing against know what you're doing. So, I'm gonna put him in B tier. For Wraith, I'm gonna go ahead and put him in C tier. He's a little better than Trapper. He has a nice invisibility and stealth move. Some of his add-ons are pretty good too. And I'm gonna try my best not to include too many of those simply because for some characters they can throw them off balance. I'm gonna put Wraith in C tier though, because, you know, he's just okay. If I were to recommend anyone to start playing a killer who just started playing this game, I would likely pick Wraith just because he's super simple, super easy to use. Hillbilly. After his most recent update, I'm actually going to put him in B tier because he's very viable now with his new turning mode thingy overdrive. I'd say he's actually pretty solid of a pick now, even more than he was before, and now it doesn't feel like he's just a worse version of Bubba right here. So, you know, overall great pick. Not great, he's just good. He's not that bad. Nurse. I don't need to say anything. She phases through walls and she's broken as hell. They need to fix her. I don't like her. I don't even like playing as her simply because she's so broken. Just the ability to phase through walls and end chases so quickly is just... Myers. Myers is a weird one because with add-ons, he is the most broken character in the game, and without add-ons, he's just okay. I'm gonna put him in C tier because I'm gonna rank him without his add-ons, and without his add-ons, he's actually not that good, in my opinion at least. And I feel like if we were including add-ons, then this would vary way too much, so I'm gonna leave him in C tier. His stock ability is okay, but it's also a really slow start, kind of like Trapper. And his lunge is very short, he's very slow, and even when you get to that tier 3, it's kind of hard to make value off it if the survivors you're playing against are simply good at the game. They're just good at chases, they're good at holding chases, so yeah, I'm gonna leave him there. Hag? Hag is a weird one, so I'm gonna put her in B tier, but she's a lower B tier. The only reason is because if you're playing against a solo queue survivor group and you're playing as a Hag and they don't really know what they're doing, I'd say you can succeed pretty well as the Hag. But if you're playing as a 4-stack, or if you're playing against a 4-stack, it's really hard, especially if the survivors know what they're doing. It's really hard to make value off her simply because she can just wipe off the traps now. And as per the most recent update, she's definitely gotten a lot worse simply because you can wipe away her traps now, you don't need a flashlight. And it's kind of like Trapper, you can just kind of just disable her ability, make it kind of pointless, and you'll kind of just win, so. Doctor. Doctor is a weird one for me. On one hand, I want to say he's bad because he is bad, but on the other hand, I've seen professional Doctor mains and they are scary, and I have seen them get an alarming amount of 4Ks. So he's gonna be a little bit iffy for me. I'm going to put him in... Let's stick him in B tier. Simply because with his electric shock and his constant kind of generator pressure, his skill check pressure, he'll make it very difficult for survivors, specifically like beginner survivors or just people who are not very good at doing skill checks. They'll make it very difficult for them to get anything done. And his shock ability, getting rid of the ability to interact with things, can be really, really good. But I feel like even with all this, there's always a survivor team that'll always know what they're doing, especially against Doctor. And even though he has a lot of capability, which I've seen, I'm still gonna say he's a lower B tier. He's definitely at, like, on the lower B tier scale, simply because, you know, he's not that good of it. His power is just simply isn't that good. But I'm gonna put him in B tier. The only reason he's not in C tier is because after watching some gameplay of him, I know he can actually be very strong. Huntress, I'm debating on A or S tier, but honestly, I'm gonna put her in S tier. If you run aura perks with Huntress, and you just learn the trajectory of your axes very well, you can demolish in lobbies. And all you have to do is know how to use her axes right, and if you do, oh my goodness, she is so annoying to play against. It's almost impossible to chase. I'm gonna put her in S tier simply because I've seen cracked Huntress mains 100 times, hitting those cross map shots, and it is a pain. And if we were talking just casually, she would probably be more in the A tier level, higher A tier, because even then she's still really, really good. Leatherface, put him in B tier. Why? Because he, especially as of now, there's a lot more pallets on all the newer maps, and his chainsaw sprint kind of just be negated if you drop a pallet in front of him. Not only that, but with all of the newer maps with a lot more obstacles in the way, it's also easier for him to enter Tantrum. And also his chase capability is now, because of all these changes, is only okay. But his ability to get multiple downs in a single swing is really nice if you have a lot of survivors grouped together, but usually they know not to do that. So I'll put him in B tier. You know, I'm actually gonna put him in C tier. Yeah, actually B tier. B tier because he can, if there's not another pallet near the other player, he can very easily win a chase. I have played him a little bit. Maybe not enough to know his full capability, but I'd say that overall, if you just chainsaw sprint pallet after pallet, you can burn pallets really quickly, but, you know, he's not exactly the most viable option compared to a lot of killers. This guy, oh boy, Freddy, D tier. I've played against 2 Freddys that I can remember. None of those matches were ever won. The issue with Freddy's ability is that it's just not very good. He doesn't have very much chase capability either. His perks are also just okay, which I want to mention about him specifically because he doesn't really have any perks that people use other than Blood Warden, and even then, from what I've seen, Blood Warden's more of like a meme perk. See, like for him, he has Agitation. He has Shadowborn, which does something different now. He has Play with Your Food and the Obsession perks. You know, a lot of these killers kind of have some sort of useful perk. Devour Hope is disgusting. He doesn't really have too much going for him, and his chase capability is really, really bad. His ability in general is kind of bad. I'm gonna stick him in D tier. The Pig. The Pig is a weird one. She's in C tier because I feel like she's the worst out of all the stealth killers. I'd actually say she's below the Wraith because her stealth capability just isn't that good. And all she really does is have a big lunge, which, yeah, I get that you can get value off that, but, it's just not that good. Not that good, in my opinion. Clown. Clown, I'm gonna stick him in A tier. And this is one of those killers that I've personally played against at a really high level. And let me tell you, if you go up against the Clown and he is good at playing Clown, you will have a terrible time, a horrible time playing this game. Trust me. Alright, I know it's a little... I'll put him in B tier just for the sake of including casual gameplay, like an upper B tier. But a Clown on a professional level, or a Clown that has just gotten really good at their character, is terrible to play against. And it's honestly one of those killers that people just don't use correctly. No, I can't use him correctly. Not to his full potential. Clown at his full potential is a really scary killer to go up against. Spirit. Spirit, we're gonna put in S tier. I shouldn't even need to explain why. Spirit has her phase mode. And if you rely on, you know, sounds and just general audio cues, you know where the survivor's going. There are perks to prevent her, so I'd actually say she's below. She's above Huntress, but below Nurse, because there are ways to counter her. There is a little bit of counterplay to her, and it's kind of just to try to make as little noise and scratch marks as possible so that when she goes into her phase, she doesn't really know where she's going, so... yeah, there's that. Legion. C tier, where he belongs. Legion is one of those killers that I know a lot of beginners have really bad trouble going up against, because yeah, his ability is really annoying. Everyone getting injured consistently, and honestly, if you use the right perk setup, he could be a B tier, but just overall, as a killer, he's a C tier. A high C tier, but a C tier nonetheless, simply because if you're up against a group of survivors that know how to play against Legion, I'd say they don't even need to be 4-stacked sometimes, they just know how to play against Legion. It can be kind of devastating for the Legion. And with a proper Legion build, I understand that he can be extremely annoying to play against, and it can be kind of a not fun match, but in terms of win to loss ratio, I feel like Legion is just a higher C tier character just because he's not that great. Ooh, the Plague, I'm gonna put her in A tier. A tier, why? Because she has one of the most broken abilities in the game, and she is the bane of all solo queue survivors. If you're solo queuing and you play against a Plague, you just have to sit there and pray that no one goes to the fountains to cleanse themselves, and that no one tries their hardest to, you know, get rid of that effect that they have on them, or else she will get one of the best abilities in the game, which is just a ranged vomit attack that will fuck you up. It will ruin you and your whole team. And honestly, she's just... and if not even that, even if you got a team that manages not to give you her ability, all of you will stay injured the whole match, which is devastating. So that also just makes her an A tier killer, just very solid. You know, not as broken as these three, but you know. Ghostfaced. Oh, I'm a Ghostface main. Okay, I gotta rank my main. C tier, but a high C tier, a high C tier killer. Here's the thing about Ghostface. Stalking and all of that, he's one of those killers that has a long preparation time in a way. When you go up against survivors that kind of know what they're doing, it is really, really hard to try and get stock off people early game if they simply just have eyes, like if they have really good eyes on you. And playing against a group of survivors that's really, really good at Dead by Daylight and just at Survivor in general, they will know what they were doing. They will keep taking you out of your power over and over and over again. And that's when it gets the most irritating, because you can't even stay in your power for more than 30 seconds without someone exposing you, and you just don't have your power anymore. So, honestly, Ghostface as a killer, C tier, high C tier, because if you do manage to build up some stock off people, you can get some really good downs, and especially at the beginning of the game, if you manage to find a good angle, you can get a lot of good value off him. And him and the pig are also very map dependent, which I don't like about them. If you get a really bright indoor map, like Gideon Meat Plant, that can be bad for him, that can be bad for her, even though it's her map. And it's honestly just harder for stealth killers to play on that indoor map, so, at least in my opinion. So, that's Ghostface. Demogorgon, B tier. B tier because I'd say he's actually pretty balanced of a killer. He's one of those killers where he has a setup, but it's not very long of a setup, really. You place your teleporters around the map, and then you have a solid way to get around the map. And his dash, if used correctly, because his dash is really hard to master. If used correctly, can just completely make pallet loop useless. Sorry, not pallet loop. Just completely make shack loop useless, because you just dash through the center when they try to vault the window, and you just hit them guaranteed. And it can really make shack pallet, which is one of the best loops in the game, useless. And so you kind of just have to sit there and deal with it if it's a good Demogorgon. But there is counterplay to him if you know how to dodge his attacks. So I'd say he's a B tier. I'd honestly just say he's pretty balanced. These are kind of balanced characters ish, except for you. Oni. I know people like to put Oni in S tier. We'll put him in A tier because actually we're gonna put him in S tier, but he's a lower S tier. I'd actually say he's above Spirit and Huntress. And the reason he's in a lower, he's still in S tier, is because his Rampage ability, where he runs around the map, he just has really good map coverage, kind of like Hillbilly, except he's a lot better because he doesn't get that like slowdown that Hillbilly gets. And you don't even really have to use his dash ability. You can still insta-down people if you just simply hold down the attack button, and that can be really valuable. And his early game is also pretty solid. You know, you just get some injure off people, use Sloppy Butcher, keep them bleeding as long as possible, and you can get your power pretty early into the game. Deathslinger. We're gonna put him in... Deathslinger's a weird one. We're gonna put him in B tier. I actually used to main him. He has a really solid ability. Actually, I kind of want to put him in A tier. He has a really solid gun ability. You know, just in casual gameplay, he's pretty good. If you're an FPS player, he's one of those killers that you can get used to really quickly if you've played FPS games your whole life. So, honestly, if you just know how to hit your shots with him, he's an overall like really solid killer to keep people mending. The only issue, which this might put him in B tier for me, I keep changing my mind a lot. In B tier, my only issue is that he has a lot of slowdown. So when you either hit or miss a shot, you know, when you shoot at all, you have to sit there and reload, and that creates a lot of slowdown for this character, having to sit back and reload every time you use your ability, which can make him a very slow-paced killer. But if you make those shots valuable, you can get a lot of great value out of him, so I'd say he's a high B tier. Pyramid Head, A tier. His ability to hit through walls is honestly just, Combine that with something like I'm All Ears or some aura reading perks, and you've got yourself something devastating. Not only that, but he also has Trails of Torment as his perks, you know, overall solid perks. his ability to hit through pallets and walls makes him a very solid choice. People do know how to play against him, and when you know how to use or go around his Trail of Torment, he can be a lot less useful, but that hit through walls ability, I feel like that makes him valuable. Valuable enough to be an A tier, but a lower A tier. Blight, you know, I actually used to think he was an A tier or a B tier, and that was just because I was bad at him, and after seeing people play as him, S tier. He is one of those killers that will just ruin your day. I'm telling you, now that I've played against a good Blight, and now that I've just overall seen a good Blight at all, because I used to not get very many of them, because I used to be horrible at Survivor. He is a really, really good killer when it comes to ending chases really fast, because his sprint ability can just be used to go right around obstacles that you're normally supposed to be looping around. And honestly, just that alone, that's really all he has, but it's really devastating to go up against. So I'm gonna stick him in S tier. The twins, I'm gonna put the twins in A tier. I have seen good twin gameplay, but I've never really gone up against a good twins, and overall, I'd say that she, how do I even put this? She's a weird one, and it's always a mix of, oh my god, this person is horrible at this character, or, oh my goodness, whoever this person is playing twins is cracked and they need to, like, they need to go into tournaments, and it's kind of just like that. I mean, it's a kind of a weird in between for me, and it's never really, oh, this person's okay at twins. No. It's always this person's really bad and this person's really good at twins, and it's honestly just one of those things, man. It's just, ooh. You know, her ability with Victor is a really good way of starting and ending chases. Her thing with, I mean, there is counterplay to her, like a lot of good counterplay to her, which is why I like her. She's one of those underutilized killers, definitely, because I've seen a lot of people play as her. They don't really know how to use her. They don't like her. A lot of people hate playing as her, which is understandable because she just feels weird. I don't know how to describe it. But the thing is that she has a lot of great chase capability and all that. Solid killer. Solid killer, but I don't like playing as her. Trickster. Trickster Renistic in B tier. He is a worse Huntress, in my opinion. One of those killers that you kind of just, I mean, you kind of just have to get used to him. It really makes the survivors feel helpless when you go into your power and you just start chucking a bunch of those kunais at them. And honestly, as a killer, I'm gonna put, I agree with B tier, but like a little bit of an upper B tier, because Huntress exists and there's just better projectile killers or hitting through pallet killers. Yeah, so honestly, a solid choice, but at the end of the day, there are just better chase killers than him, but he does have a lot of good capability. He has a lot of potential. Even though he does kind of encourage camping a little bit. Same thing with Bubba. Bubba also encourages a lot of camping. Nemesis, A tier. He's another one of those killers that can hit through pallets, which are not killers that I like very much, especially going up against. But long story short, he can hit through pallets, making him already a super viable option. And overall, honestly, he also has really good map coverage, and he's just a really, really good pick because he has the zombies going around the map. And if you're a Nemesis main or you've played a lot of Nemesis, you probably know that if the zombies raise their hands up, that means they're near a player. So already he's got some free map coverage, And if you just get good at him, he's just a really, really overall good pick. And I feel like he can be really, really hard to play against for the survivors. So I'd keep him there. I'd say he's like that good. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with my A tier. Sorry. Now for Cenobite. Oh, Cenobite has a lot of things going on. I'm gonna put him in also A tier. Cenobite is definitely one of the stronger killers and one of those killers that people don't really know how to play against. Cenobite has his cube, which stops the slowdown from happening. He has his chains. Then he has a little chain ability where you go into first person, which is really devastating for whoever you're chasing, especially if the person playing Cenobite is good at it. And honestly, I just say that Cenobite is just annoying to go up against, especially if you don't have a 4-stack with you. If you don't have a 4-stack or you're not playing with friends and people go and actively steal the box, it's just, oof. It can be a really devastating time for the survivors. Artist, I want to put her in S tier, but I'm going to put her in very, very, very high A tier because there's really good counterplay. Artist is one of those killers that can just, she just provides very, very consistent map pressure. And I've played against her a lot, a little more than I like to admit. I don't really play as her. I've actually never played as her before, which is why some of my opinions might be a little flawed. But Artist is just one of those killers for me that I don't like going up against as a survivor, and in my opinion, she's just a little busted because of her crows and the fact that while in the middle of a chase, she can just go and check for other survivors. Really good double tasking in my opinion. And yeah, just overall like a really, really good killer. Almost uncounterable, but Onuro, I don't even know where to put her simply because she's had so many nerfs and buffs. Hell, she might have had a nerf or a buff like the other day and I just don't know about it. Like, she's been through a rocky launch as a killer because she used to be one of the most broken, and then she went to being bad, and then she became kind of broken again. I don't really know what's going on with her. I'm gonna stick her in B tier just to be safe. I have gone up against her recently, and it wasn't that bad. It was just an okay. It was kind of like, I can't tell if the Onuro is just mid now or if this person is just really bad. But yeah, we're gonna keep him there just because this killer confuses me with the amount of updates she's had. Dredge, as of the most recent update, they made everything about Dredge just faster. High A tier. He has really good map coverage, traverse through walls, through all like the closets and all that really well. Now he does everything faster, which is a great change for him. There is, of course, still counterplay, so he keeps him in A tier. Not only that, but he also does his little clone thing faster, where he creates the remnant. And overall, just a really good killer, and also a really fun killer to play. I've played him a lot when I got him, so I honestly, yeah, just a really fun killer overall. I like this killer. Fun killer. I like Dredge. A tier. Wesker. Wesker we're gonna also put in A tier. I remember when Wesker came out, everyone played Wesker. No one did. It was almost impossible to find a match that wasn't a Wesker because everyone wanted to play Wesker. And honestly, he's just one of those killers that's just super fun to play because he has his dash ability and he has all that movement, and he's just really, really overall solid. I don't know if you can still do those reversal things anymore where you like slide off a pallet, because I've heard that they're gonna fix that, or maybe they have already, but from what I've heard, he's an A tier. If they got rid of his ability to slide off pallets and do all his cool techs, it's probably like a high B tier. But you know, Knight is actually not that good, even though I'm really bad at going up against him. Knight is just kind of whatever in my opinion. I'm going to put him in C tier. He's not really that fun to play. His chase capabilities are only really okay. And the way to counterplay him is basically just a whole W. I mean, there's not a whole lot of, like, interaction going on. He's just not that good of a killer. He's not that fun. He's not that good to play. Just because all his clones and all that aren't that good. You can just run in a straight line and avoid most of them. And most good survivors know not to waste a pallet on them, but he's just one of those really slow killers in my opinion. I just don't like him that much. Ooh, this one. Well, I gotta put her in A tier, but it's just I don't like her at all. I don't like playing against her. I don't like playing as her. I don't like how clunky she is. I don't like the stupid drones that she makes. The overall campy playstyle. No. I don't like her. She's an A tier, like she's good, but no one likes playing against her. Everyone hates her. Horrible killer. Bad. Horribly designed. Good game, like good as in like she's only an A tier because she's like, you know, she is a killer that can get 4Ks very quickly, but I don't like her. I don't like her one bit. Singularity, we're gonna put you in A tier because he's one of those killers. Hard to learn and hard to master, but once you master him, oh my goodness, you can wreck a lobby in 2 seconds. I didn't think very much of this killer until I watched someone who was really good at Singularity play Singularity, and it is so much like micromanaging, but oh my goodness, he will make a lobby a living hell. Oh my goodness. It is just, whew. A good Singularity, a really good Singularity is really scary, and that's why I'm gonna leave him in A tier. Huh. I'm gonna put Xenomorph in A tier because she has the ability, I believe it's a she. She has the little tail attack, which I know they kind of fixed the hitboxes for those, I'm pretty sure. But even with the hitbox fixes, she's still like an overall, she's just still an overall solid pick. I mean, she's on the lower scale of the A tier, but overall, I'd say she still belongs in A tier because she has really good map coverage, teleporting around the generators, really good gen defense because of that, and also the tail attack is just a very overall helpful skill to use. Of course, there is still counterplay as per most of the A tier killers, and you know, it's just like, I remember going up against Xenomorph when she first came out. It was kind of annoying because everyone was playing her as per usual. But I'd say her chasing capability is pretty good, and the map traversal she has is honestly just a really helpful thing, even though there is drones, the little drones that she placed on the ground with the flamethrowers that tell you when she's coming. Even then, she's still a really, really good pick and even has good survivor interaction, so I kind of like the killer. I like the design too. Gameplay design. Chucky, not S tier anymore. If you asked me when he came out if he was in A or an S tier, I would have said S tier, but now he's just an A tier in my book. He is one of those confusing, he's not confusing, I'm sorry. He's just one of those killers that gets on my nerves because they made a killer that is really small, and it's also a stealth killer. Luckily, he's not a lot of scamper and hidey-ho mode anymore. Or is that what they did to him? It's something like that. He can't go under things while he's Unless he's dashing, I'm pretty sure that's what they did. So, overall, he's an A tier. He was really... I did not like him when he came out. The perk Friends Till the End is also a perk I don't like. Kind of encourages tunneling a little bit. But, you know, he's an overall really good pick just because he's tiny and he's stealth. And you have the fake footprints that don't even work, so... Yeah, A tier. You can really throw survivors off. The Unknown, B tier. Really good projectiles. I like his map traversal too because it's kind of left up the chance. I love his design. I think his design is really, really cool. And that combined with the teleportation and the good map traversal makes him a really, really solid killer. And honestly, I like his gameplay too. I haven't really played him at all, but I have seen a lot of footage of him, and he seems really fun to go up against, but also kind of like one of those scary things because when you see him chasing you, it's you know, it's a little freaky. But yeah, he has his projectiles, which is a really good addition to the killer, and then he has his good, like pretty solid map traversal, and overall, yeah, I'd say he's like a high B tier. He's just pretty good. He's pretty solid. Vecna. Vecna's one of those killers I haven't gone up against a lot, but I have gone up against the Vecna. He is one of those confusing killers. I think he's confusing. So overall, I'm gonna put him in A tier, and I haven't gone up against him enough, but he does have a hit through the wall ability, and he has a lot of counterplay, which I know that. I don't know how good he can be with the counterplay, because honestly I get really unlucky with the chests. But what I do know is that he has an invisibility thing that's really irritating. And the survivor gets an invisibility ability that's really irritating. But honestly, overall, yeah, I'd say he's an A tier with the whole weird thing he has going on. I still haven't played against him enough, so please bear with me. And Dracula, this is why I'm gonna leave Dracula out, because I haven't played against him almost at all. I think I've only gone up against Dracula once, and I don't have enough to say about Dracula so far to know if he's good or not, so I'm gonna leave it at that. This is my killer tier list. Thank you for watching. If you want me to make more tier lists in the future, hell, I'll do a survivor tier list at some point. Let me know, and I'll see y'all next time.